Claude Code comes to the web while agentic coding platform Replit projects $1 billion in revenue. Welcome back to the AI Daily Brief Headlines Edition, all the daily AI news you need in around 5 minutes. First up today, Anthropic is making Claude Code available through a web app and within the Claude iOS app. Previously, the feature was only available through terminals and IDEs, and the big unlock is being able to spin up background agents. With Claude Code running in the cloud, you can now run multiple tasks in parallel across different repositories from a single interface and ship faster with automatic PR creation and clear change summaries. This asynchronous workflow is quickly becoming a powerful tool for AI-enhanced coders. Claude Code product manager Kat Wu said, "As we look forward, one of our key focuses is making sure the command line interface product is the most intelligent and customizable way for you to use coding agents. But we're continuing to put Claude Code everywhere, helping it meet developers where they are. Web and mobile is a big step in this direction." Certainly there is a lot of excitement about this. Josh JDJ Kelly on Twitter wrote, "I can work with Claude Code while out on a walk." Speaking of agentic coding, Replit is projecting massive growth to reach $1 billion in revenue by the end of next year. Speaking with Business Insider, CEO Amjad Masad said that the AI coding startup has reached $240 million in ARR and expects that to quadruple next year. The company's growth this year has been absolutely skyrocketing, gaining more than 10x from their $16 million in ARR at the end of 2024. The company now has over 150,000 paying customers and over 40 million free users. And while at this stage, all those free users mean that the consumer segment is unprofitable, Masad boasted that enterprise margins are close to 80%. This follows the same profit model that other AI companies are currently pursuing. The consumer segment is a loss leader due to large volumes of free users, but building familiarity with consumers means they demand access to the same tools at work. Masad said that the surging revenue was largely due to adoption in mid-sized companies including Duolingo and Zillow. He said, "Replit is kind of replacing a lot of the no-code, low-code tools which never really work very well. They get initial productivity boosts, but a lot of times that ended up actually slowing down a lot of companies. Whatever the case, they are seeing enough growth that they are pushing forward their expectations." This article came about after Business Insider saw a leaked investor memo that gave the billion-dollar projection for 2027. Speaking of growth, after a spike in downloads this month, could Meta's AI app actually be gaining traction? According to SimilarWeb data, Meta's standalone AI app now has over 300,000 downloads per day, up from around 100,000 in mid-September. In addition, the app now has 2.7 million daily active users, up from 775,000 last month. And while SimilarWeb said they hadn't seen any meaningful correlation with either search or advertising volume, however, they noted that Meta could be promoting the platform on Facebook or Instagram, which aren't included in SimilarWeb's data. The other possible explanation is that Meta's new Vibes feed has been more of a success than people gave it credit for. The AI-generated image and video feed was released September 25th and decried by many as the introduction of infinite feeds of AI slop. However, the spike in downloads and daily active users both do line up with the introduction of that feed. OpenAI's launch of the Sora app a week later could also be boosting Meta's platform as an alternative. Sora still requires an invite code while Meta's platform is freely available. Now, obviously, these numbers in aggregate are still quite low relative to the billions of users that mainstream social apps have, but the growth is notable nonetheless. Next up, some fundraising news. OpenEvidence, the AI assistant for doctors, has raised $200 million at a $6 billion valuation. This is the second large fundraising round for the company this year. They raised $210 million at a $3.5 billion valuation back in July. And with the level of growth they've displayed recently, it's not hard to see why the valuation has almost doubled. OpenEvidence now supports around 15 million clinical consultations a month, up from 8.5 million in July. The product is free to use for registered medical professionals and monetized through advertising rather than subscription. That unconventional approach for a professional tool has allowed OpenEvidence to expand into 10,000 medical centers. OpenEvidence only began commercializing their app 3 months ago and is already halfway to their target of $100 million in advertising revenue for next year. The assistant is trained on leading medical journals like the New England Journal of Medicine and is designed to help doctors quickly access the literature for diagnosis and treatment options. The system is also designed to reject low-confidence outputs, reducing hallucination risk. Alongside medical journals, the model is also being fine-tuned on the 100 million clinical consultations assisted by the tool. Co-founder Daniel Nadler said that this is one of the company's largest moats, adding, "No one else in the world has that data." Speaking to adoption among doctors, Zangin Zeb of Google Ventures, the lead investor in the round, said it's reaching verb-like status. Now, this data type of moat, where companies in verticals have access to actual real-world data based on the usage of their tool, is one of the most interesting themes and questions. So far in the history of LLMs, we've seen that the bitter lesson applies. In other words, that mass access to data beats out specialized data when it comes to pre-training. However, where a lot of people are looking in the future is that the data that's left that the foundation model labs don't have is the data exhaust that comes from real-world usage, and that could in and of itself be extremely valuable. That's certainly the argument that OpenEvidence is making, and we'll have to see how it plays out. Staying on fundraising, music gen startup Suno is said to be in talks to raise $100 million at a $2 billion valuation. Sources speaking with Bloomberg said the deal would quadruple the company's valuation since their last raise. That last round closed in May of last year and brought in $125 million, although the valuation was not disclosed at the time. Importantly, the startup is now generating $100 million in ARR, according to sources familiar with the numbers. And what's more, Suno may be able to settle their legal disputes very shortly. In June of last year, Universal and Warner Music filed a lawsuit for copyright infringement against Suno and competitor Unio. But this June, Bloomberg reported that the labels are in talks to settle the litigation and establish a licensing framework for generated music. The labels are also rumored to be looking to take an equity stake in both of those companies. Reinforcing the idea of a truce between the music industry and AI startups, last week Spotify announced plans to work with the record labels on AI-powered features. Universal Music Group CEO Lucian Grange is boosting a pro-AI message internally. Last week, he sent a memo to staff re-emphasizing his interest in partnering on AI products as long as they respect artist copyrights and likenesses. Now, for anyone who has watched the history of the record labels all the way going back to Napster, this should be no surprise at all. There is no industry, frankly, more adept at figuring out how to monetize the new thing. Lastly today, the latest company to make some big AI pronouncement is Starbucks. Starbucks CEO Brian Niccol said that they're all in on AI. Appearing on a Yahoo Finance podcast recorded at the Dreamforce conference last week, Niccol discussed a wide range of AI deployments at the company. A major scaled use case is an in-store knowledge assistant referred to as the Green Dot. It helps store leaders manage daily operations, including troubleshooting equipment and providing drink recipes. Niccol also said that Starbucks has pilots for inventory, supply chain forecasting, and scheduling, although none of those use cases are at scale. Speaking to ROI, he commented, "We're still in the early days of this, but I believe there is definitely opportunity here to help us get things done faster and more efficiently. To what scale that is to be determined. We're definitely already seeing a big impact in our technology area. The ability to get code done so much faster is real." One thing he did reject is the idea of robot baristas anytime soon, commenting, "We're not near that right now." Some folks tried to dig into the specifics about what that would mean, while others just let it be vibes. Sophie at NetCapGirl writes, okay, yeah, whatever, F it. Starbucks AI. And that is going to do it for today's headlines. Next up, the main episode.